Stand by for that. There's other breaking news we're following. CNN has just learned that Iraqi federal forces are now in control of the oil-rich city of Kirkuk in northern Iraq, following the conclusion of an operation that pitted two U.S. allies against one another. Till recently, government forces and Kurdish fighters battled ISIS together, but tensions have been escalating in recent weeks and months. Let's discuss the situation with my next guest. Luqman Faili is the former Iraqi ambassador to the United States. Ambassador, thank you so much for joining us. This is a difficult situation. You got the Peshmerga, the Kurdish military forces, closely aligned with the United States, the Iraqi military, closely aligned with the United States, but they were fighting each other coming on the heels of this referendum in Kurdistan for independence, non-binding referendum. You're an Iraqi Kurd. How do you see it unfold?
Thank you for having me. I see it as more the next chapter after the liberation of Iraq from ISIS. Only 2 counties remaining, the whole Iraq where ISIS is in control. So that's one side. Now the central government is trying to project its power across the country. The referendum taking place, which meant that an acceleration had to take place. On the other side, you have these fighters who were together. They have common objectives.
With the Iraqi military and the Peshmerga.
The
Peshmerga, the Kurdish forces.
Yes, the liberated towns together. But now we have issues within the Kurdish communities, and we have an issue of how does the government try to have control, yet bloodless operation.
Who is more responsible for the defeat of ISIS in northern Iraq, in Mosul and elsewhere? The Kurdish forces or the Iraqi military?
No, the military itself, I mean, it's not one unit within the military, but the central government with the cooperation of the Peshmerga and others work together. A majority of the fighting was done in the central government, where it's not just in northern Iraq. You have Anbar, you have other provinces as well. Certainly, it's not just counterterrorism forces, others as well, and the Peshmergas. It's not only one unit of
Because
Peshmerga.
in 2014, when ISIS took over Mosul, the second largest city in Iraq, the Iraqi military, the regular forces of Iraq, they ran away. They left behind their American-supplied armored personnel carriers, their tanks. They ran away. The Kurds stayed behind and fought ISIS.
It's not even that clear, but let's put it this way. The Kurds fought it. The army came back again. They cooperated. Now we need to look at the next chapter. The next chapter is they have to cooperate politically, make sure that there is no blood on the street, and make sure that civilians are not affected by it.
Here's what concerns the U.S., that a lot of these Iraqi forces fighting the Kurds are supported by Iran, the Iranian Islamic Revolutionary Guard, that they have forces there. That is of deep concern to the U.S., as you well know.
I understand that the U.S. has concern about Iran, but this is more domestic. This is more internal within Iraq.
But does Iran play a role in Iraq right now?
It does, but everybody else as well. The Iraqi government are asking for the Turkish, they're asking for the U.S., others to cooperate with them. You have to bear in mind, this all came about because of the referendum. So I think there was a mistiming from the KRG government.
The Kurdish government.
The Kurdish government emphasizing on the referendum. And unfortunately, we had to come to this stage. The prime minister has to project power. At the end of the day, he's governing the country. He has to project within the constitution. And this is what he's trying to do.
You think the Kurds will support the Haider al-Abadi, the prime minister?
Yesterday, we had a split within the Kurds in relation to this. That's why there was no blood on the street, and there was the clean-cut operation for the government, because factions of the Kurds sided with the government. I think
this is a really dangerous situation right now. I think you will agree with me. Potentially,
the U.S. has to have a better position.
The U.S. is watching this very, very closely because between the Kurds, the Iraqi Shia, the Iraqi Sunni, the Iranians involved, this whole situation potentially could explode.
Yes, but the U.S. has to have a better reading of the situation, better on the ground. They are not at this moment. They're looking at this from far off and saying, well, you are mature enough to deal with these issues. Well, unfortunately, we have escalated to this situation. The U.S. have to have a better reading and have to have a better addressing of the key issues. It needs to emphasize more on negotiation, certainly, but it needs to understand where the red lines are.
Because this could really explode into a major civil war.
I doubt it is.
I hope it doesn't, but it potentially could. Everybody's watching very, very carefully. Luqman Faili is the former Iraqi ambassador to the United States. Welcome back to Washington.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.